call, if you could please mute your line if you're not asking a question. Otherwise, we'll open it up to today's participants for today's teleconference.
Coach, I'll kick things off here. We talked with Kyrie Shelton this week, and he said that some players on the team, they've made plans to show their support for the Black Lives Matter movement despite the removal of the national anthem for the MLS is Back tournament. What involvement will you and the coaching staff have in organized demonstrations of peaceful protest on game days?
So we've had quite a few discussions here about a lot of different things. That specific topic, they have not had with the staff up until now. I'm sure they will by the time we get there. And we've been, in step with the players all along. And so I don't think it would change anything. It's just that they haven't really spoken to us about that yet.
Hey, Coach, Harold from Fox 4. Obviously, the rising cases in Orlando. What's the trepidation level of you guys as you travel down to Orlando with everything that's going on with the rising spike so far in Florida?
For me, zero. The fact that the way that we've been going about our business up until now, I think has been very good. The testing protocol is going to continue when we get down there. We're going to be in, I've gone through all the protocol that they're going to have down there. I think one would say if you read through it, you would probably say it's over the top. But obviously necessary at this time. So I feel very comfortable with the protocol in that we'll be in a really good place.
Coach, the schedule came out yesterday. Do you like what you see? You guys don't play till the 12th, 2 night games, and then that 8 in the morning with Real Salt Lake?
Yeah, I mean, the two times of 8 at night are great. The 9 a.m. Eastern time, 8 Central is going to be a difficult one for both teams. Just not normal to play that early in the morning, especially a game, and no fans. Those will all present some difficulties, but I think the one thing about the guys thus far, what they've shown is they've shown a good attitude, good mentality. So I think it's really about us playing our first game and kind of getting it back into the groove. And hopefully by that third game, we'll start feeling pretty good about ourselves.
Coach, with the expanded rosters and the implementation of the 5 sub rule, what role do you envision the younger players especially having in this tournament?
Yeah, it's a good question. The fact that you're playing a Sunday, a Friday, and a Tuesday, there's actually a pretty good amount of time in between games. At the same time, you haven't played any real games up until that point. So it's, I think I've said this once before, it's really going to be about taking inventory of the team after each game and really seeing where the guys are. Because it's one thing to have the rest in between. There also could be an accumulation aspect that we have to be careful of. And so we're going to have to assess it. And I really say after each game, like the next day, see where those guys are. You'll be doing it all the days leading up, but usually it's the day after is where you sit there and say to yourself, okay, do we suffer any injuries? It's that type of thing that you're really going to be looking at. Because sometimes a guy might say, hey, my hamstring's tight. And then you make this really difficult call. Do you keep playing them or do you give them the rest? And it's really going to come down to really good communication between the player, the medical staff, and then them with me and the rest of the coaching staff.
Hey, Peter, that 8 a.m. game, because it's so early in the morning, do you need to have, some sort of different preparation? And is it just waking up extra early? Or, do you have to do anything different with that early start?
No, we're going to have to get up earlier because we're going to have to fuel the body in a different way. We still, a lot of times we do our pregame meal somewhere between 4 and 5 hours prior to our game. So you can imagine what time that puts you at. So we'll have to deal with the fuel of the team a little differently in that situation. And then I'd also think that maybe even at halftime, we're going to have to do something a little different for that game because it's going to be really hard to get the guys up, so early in the morning. You're talking about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. That's going to be tough.
Back in March, Matt Beasler made it a point to kind of discuss staying in shape for games. And he said it's going to be incredibly difficult throughout this quarantine to really stay in game day shape, and it might be a problem there. How have you seen the team progress, and are they in game day shape, or do you expect some stumbling blocks along the way here?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. It's a good question because when you watch a lot of the games that have taken place around the world, you see that the sharpness of the players is lacking. Now we've been obviously doing individual workouts. We progressed to those small group workouts, but until you start competing against each other, you're waiting for that to come and waiting for the guys to now get into rhythm with each other. We're starting to see a little bit of that. But the other difficulty here is that we're constantly playing against ourselves in inter-squad scrimmages. And so one is the guys know the other guys pretty well and vice versa. And then the second piece, the guys are getting really, it's getting old. We need a different opponent. And so what I think will happen, especially in that first game, there'll be this incredible energy between the two teams in the first 10, 15 minutes because it's, oh, here we go, we're playing again. But then hopefully the game will settle down a little bit. I don't think anybody will be in game shape, but I do think it's possible by the third game that you could really start to get back a rhythm of play.
Peter, just for the record, have you had any positive tests yet with staff or players?
I can say that no, we haven't had any positive tests yet, and that's a lot of people.
Hey, Peter, it's Dylan Butler with MLSsoccer.com. A two-parter. You were mentioning that first game. It's Minnesota. I mean, obviously 4 months ago, but they were off to a great start. Just maybe some initial thoughts about playing them. And then also, I was on a call yesterday with Mark Dos Santos, and he was thinking because of the heat, because of not playing for a while, it's likely that this tournament is going to see a lot of goals. Do you also subscribe to that theory?
Yeah, I hope we score a lot of goals and don't get many against us. Yeah, I think the Heat's going to have a major impact. It's one of the reasons why I said the likes of Dallas and Houston, Orlando, Miami, Atlanta, those guys have a leg up on the rest of us just because they're acclimated to it by training every day. So I do think that the Heat's going to have a major impact. Is it going to lead to a lot of goals? Potentially. I think there's a high potential for that. And that's why I think it's also going to affect game fitness as well early on because teams just won't be used to it.
Coach, what day has the team decided to travel for the tournament with the 12th being the first game? There's a little bit of flexibility after the 4th of July weekend.
Yeah, July 5th. We're going to leave the 5th of July.
Peter, just Dylan again, just that second part with Minnesota, facing them straight away.
So very good team in that strong up the spine, like really strong up the spine, a lot of experience, not only as soccer players, but in our league as well. Winners on that team. And so I think, yeah, it's a team that, similar small market, we always got to punch above our weight class type teams. And so those always wind up being really tough battles. And I don't expect it to be any different than kind of the games we see against Salt Lake, the Colorados of the world. I think our group is really tough from that point of view because you have so many similar type clubs in size and market and all that stuff, and we always have to, as my owner always says, you got to do a lot more with a lot less.
Coach, does being down there on the 5th allow you guys the time to scrimmage another team? Or is that something that you're still not going to be able to do because of certain protocol that they put in place?
Yeah, they put a protocol in place that you have to be down there at least 7 days before you could play a scrimmage. And so since we're getting there, our objective was it was more important for us to get down there as late as possible because why would you think that you're going home early? So we're going to think that we're going to stay late. And so it's better for us to, be at home longer.
Peter, do you know if you're going to take the full senior team roster, or will you leave some players at home to maybe supplement the SKC2, or have you figured that out yet?
Everybody that is available, and when I say available, there might be somebody that's still coming off of an injury that I may leave back just because I want to take all healthy bodies down there. One, two is because we're playing such because we're playing a lot of games in a short period of time. The staff's concentration is going to have to be on the guys that are getting their guys ready for games. It's not going to be rehab guys. So whoever we don't feel is going to have a huge impact in playing, we'll probably leave behind. But every other player would then go.
And then it was reported that you guys were trying to get Winston Reed back in country. Have you been able to do that?
Yeah, he's back. He was at training today. And he's taken his tests and everything, and he's negative, as Seren asked earlier. Everybody is, but he went through the protocol of taking his tests back to back. He's actually taken 3 in a row.
Of some of the younger players on the roster, which ones are you planning on taking, if you can share?
All of them, because they're all healthy. Does that answer your question, Diane?
Yes, it does. Thank you. And I saw your comment about Busio and Cam in a write-up yesterday that came out. Can you elaborate any on the significance you think they're going to play in the tournament?
Yeah, it's, again, hard for me to kind of predict. What I would say is that have the utmost confidence in those guys playing. Lindsay as well. They're all really, taking those steps. They've worked hard in this quarantine period as well to come back in a good place. And I also think it probably helped them a little bit with not having to go through the everyday and get a little bit of a break prior to, because, we spent preseason in the first 2 games, and now they got a break mentally. And so I think they're coming back much stronger than when we left. So they're in a good place. And the good thing is they'll be available. All those guys are healthy at the moment. So I'm not going to be afraid to use any of those guys.
How does the 5 substitutions work for you in the case that, where you're still trying to prepare backwards, as you always say? Are you coming in like trying to maybe having 2 different sets of lineups that you think for one game and then the next game, and then incorporating those substitutions since you have more to use?
I could first on the roster or the lineups. Yeah, I could easily put 2 teams together right now. I feel pretty good about that. Will I go that way? I'm not sure yet. The 5 substitutions, as much as it is a good thing from a physical perspective, could be a really slippery slope when it comes to the flow and rhythm of a team. There's times when you're playing a game and you haven't made a sub yet and the team is on, and you make 1 sub and it has a major effect in a negative way. And then sometimes, in preseason, we change 5, 6, 10 guys out of a team at halftime, and the second team comes back in, and it's just, it changes everything. So it's really going to be the first thing I'm going to have to look at in these situations is going to be the physical component of each player, because it's, like I said, it's going to be so warm. I'm going to have to take that into assessment first. If a guy just can't go physically, just can't go physically. No matter what I want to do tactically, it really doesn't matter, right? That's going to be the first thing I have to look at. And then after that, then I'll start looking from a tactical perspective. If it makes sense, just get a fresh body, or if we're winning and, teams are pumping balls in the box, I might want to get another, bigger guy in the back to help with, clearing balls type of thing. But the 5 substitution rule is going to be a very interesting one on how teams use them. I really think that the physical component is going to be the number 1 priority first.
Jumping back to Winston Reed real quick, I assume we'll see some of him just because of the need for rotation, but do you think he's ready to jump in right away, or does he need more time with the team right now because he was gone for so long?
Well, he was working out while he was over in England, but he's got to get back into the full team training, and so that's going to take a little bit of time. But he does have a good base of fitness, What I won't do is I won't put him out there in a risky situation. I want to make sure that whatever I put him up against, that he's prepared for it, whether it's 10 minutes, a half, or whatever the time period is. I just got to make sure that he's prepared and he's confident to do that as well, because it makes no sense to hurry any player up just to get him on the field. Like, again, I think with the complement of our roster right now, we're fairly healthy. So we just got to kind of keep it that way going into the first game.
So I assume we'll probably see him if you guys are, 2 or 3 goals up, hopefully, and there's 20, 15 minutes left. That's more when we maybe see him come in.
I mean, it's a possibility. It's a possibility.
Peter, I know they put the schedule out right for the tournament. They haven't publicly put out what's happening after the tournament. Have they given that to you, and it's something they're just holding on releasing to everybody else, or is that still in the works?
They haven't given it to me. I do know that there's I'm definitely not a marketing guy, but I'm sure there's a little bit of that behind it, kind of get this thing off and running and then announce the next phase. But I know that there's not only a huge motivation from the league's point of view, but us here at Sporting, we're doing everything we can to try to make sure that when we come back, that we're able to not only get in our stadium, but even possibly, have, a good amount of fans in there as well, socially distanced, all that stuff, and kind of take the steps forward from there. That's our objective.
What is the plan right now? A lot of people are talking about, we heard Dr. Fauci made the statement that baseball shouldn't be playing in October. What's the conversation like about as the season gets into the colder months? Has there been anything on the board yet?
Yeah, I didn't talk to Fauci today, but I can tell you this, that, no, I just think that, there's a lot of different messaging out there. And as we all know, it changes a lot and quickly, even on a daily basis. And so I've said this in the past, I'm the optimist. I think we're getting back. I think we're going to be playing some games in our stadium, fans. And, I look at it as individual workouts. Everybody thought it was crazy coming back to the individual workouts. And here we are now playing full team. And, we're in our locker room. We're having breakfast and lunch every day. Things have progressed. And I think we've done a really good job of keeping ourselves in a good position. The guys have been safe. The guys have been disciplined. And I think that's going to continue. And I hope that, hope it helps as we come back from Orlando.
What does it say about the guys on the team to have no positive tests, right? We've seen colleges come back with the younger guys, but you've got some guys that are, college age that are on this team that they haven't been, like the LSU, 30 guys in quarantine because they were all down at the bar district or something. Is that a makeup thing? Are you lucky because you're in Kansas City and maybe it's not as hot a spot as other places? What's your reaction to that? Are you surprised by it?
Yeah, a little bit, because I think it's, when you think of the everyday life of any of us, right? I mean, okay, if you're going to your work and then you go home, okay, that's one thing, but you still have to go grocery shopping. You still have to do other things. And so the guys are doing those things and they're just so far so good. But you also got to keep your guard up. And I've, been very, very adamant about that with the guys and just saying that, hey, listen, you guys have worked really hard and we only have a short period of time left. So let's make sure that we continue to be vigilant and that, we're smart around who we're around and, just being smart. And the guys have done a good job. I'm not surprised. The guys understand what, they're trying to do. They're committed. I think as much as so much was made of, do they want to go to Orlando or did all the players and all that stuff? Yeah, they want to play. They want to get back to their profession. And so I think they realize that they put all this work in up until now. They want to get back playing some games. But I think it's also, I think the other side of it is that, there's been guys in the league on different teams that have become positive and, what's going to happen to them is they're going to quarantine and they're going to be back out there in, 10, 14 days and they'll be back. And so I also think that it's going to happen, And as long as you have a procedure in place to deal with it, I think that's the really big thing. I guess I'm not naive to think that everything's going to be perfect, because it's not. It was more of us making sure that, we've done a lot of other things behind the scenes, tracking the guys, knowing which teams they play on, knowing where they're you've been here at Pinnacle or Compass Mineral, what we call it, right? And so you've been on all the locker rooms and all the things that we have. Well, we've spread the guys out and they're consistently in the same locker. So if a guy was to get sick, we know who's in his locker room with him, and we would test those guys right away. So there's been a lot of thought into making sure if it does happen, and as opposed to thinking, hey, we can't make sure this doesn't happen. Yeah, we don't want it to happen, but I still think, let's be realistic. It's probably going to happen. And when it does, we just want to be in a good position to control it and make sure it doesn't spread all over the place.
Peter, this is kind of like your preseason part 2, or, baseball's calling it spring training 2.0, whatever. But do you see a noticeable difference? I mean, after all this country's been through, after all everybody's been through, after all the precautions you're taking, that's got to change somebody. Is there a difference from the first preseason where the guys were just anxious to get back and play and be together, to this time when you're conquering all these monumental things, but getting back to the game they love? Do you see a difference in appreciation and eagerness or a weariness? I mean, can you tell or are they just like they were the first time around?
It's actually an interesting question, because what I would say is that I said this when we came back from, we came back from our break, right? I'm not talking about now. When we came back after January, right, and we started preseason then, that I was really impressed with the off-season training program of the guys and how they came back and they were fit. And I was pleased with that. And I was pleased also with the way their mentality was during preseason. But I would say that the way they've handled the individual workouts, which, could have been really monotonous, and then the small group training where you really couldn't do much, even at that point. It could have been a time where you could have just gotten really frustrated. The guys have really showed a tremendous amount of commitment, and it's not just the fact that they showed up. It's that they show up and they work extremely hard, and there's no other way to say it. There's no bitching and moaning about it, which athletes do a lot. And the guys have been really focused, really committed. I keep using the word committed because it's not easy to do that, especially when you didn't even know what you were getting ready for. For a long time, there was a lot of talk of things, but nothing was set. And so the guys have really shown that, continued commitment, even without because most athletes are very goal oriented, without having whatever that first game date was going to be. And so, yeah, I would say it's different. It's different in that the guys have been, really focused. And then the other thing too is that I've always felt that we've had, probably one of our strongest things here has been our culture. And I'm proud of the way the guys have rallied around their teammates who have really emotionally been affected by the racial issues and things like that, and the staff as well. It's gotten even stronger, and I love the fact that our guys are supporting each other, because we talk about, we spend probably more time with each other during the year than we do with our families, and we are a family. And so I'm glad to see that the guys, have shown that respect for each other, that support that one needs in times when you need it. The guys are showing it, and that's been great.
Hey, Peter, there's been reports that they're going to open up a transfer window of like a 2-day transfer window before the tournament. Some teams have been signing homegrown players and things like that. Do you have any plans?
Yeah, we're going to stay with the way we are. We're not looking to doing anything just yet. I love how you asked that. That you love the transfer windows.
Gotta ask, right?
I know. You love them though.
Any final questions from the group?
Have a safe trip, Peter.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you, Peter.
Thanks, Coach. Bye.
Thanks, Peter.
Bye.